Chapter 10. Bit of Junk was next door to the Cobb Junkery, sharing the block with the Blue Dragon, Russell Patch's carriage house, Andy's place on the corner, and a variety store that catered to the needs of the community with embroidered prayer books and black panties trimmed with red fringe. Ben had his shop on the main floor of a townhouse that was similar in design to the Cobb mansion, but only half as wide and twice as dilapidated. The upper floors were devoted to sleeping rooms for men only, according to a weather-stained sign on the building. Quillerin climbed the icy stone steps and entered a drab foyer. Through the glass panes of the parlor doors, he could see a hodgepodge of cast-offs, dusty furniture, unpolished brass and copper, cloudy glass, and other dreary oddments. The only thing that attracted him was the kitten curled up on a cushion with chin on paw. It was in the center of a table full of breakables, and Quillerin could imagine with what velvet-footed care the small animal had tiptoed between the goblets and teacups. He went in. At the sight of the bushy mustache, the proprietor rose from a couch and extended his arms in melodramatic welcome. Ben was wearing a bulky ski sweater that emphasized his rotund figure, and with it, he sported a tall silk hat. He swept off the hat and bowed low. "How's business? Slow?" Quillerin asked, as he appraised the unappealing shop. "Weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable," said the dealer, returning the hat to cover his thinning hair. Quillerin picked up a World War I gas mask. "An historic treasure," Nicholas informed him. "Came over on the Mayflower." He padded after the newsman in white-stockinged feet. "I hear you used to be in the theater," the newsman remarked. The tubby little dealer drew himself up from 5'4" to 5'5". "Our Friar Lawrence on Broadway was acclaimed by critics. Our Dogberry was superb. Our Bottom was unforgettable. How now? You tremble and look pale." Quillerin was staring at the kitten on its cushion. That cat," he sputtered. "It's dead. An admirable example of the taxidermist's art. You like it not?" "I like it not," said Quillerin, and he blew into his mustache. "What's your specialty anyway? Do you have a specialty?" "I am a merry wanderer of the night." "Come off it. You don't have to put on a performance for me. If you want any publicity, give me some straight answers. Do you specialize in anything?" Ben Nicholas pondered. "Anything that will turn a profit." "How long have you been operating in Junktown?" "Too long." "Did you know Andy Glanz very well?" The dealer folded his hands and rolled his eyes upward. "Noble, wise, valiant, and honest," he intoned. "It was a sad day for Junktown when St. Andrew met his untimely end." Then he hitched his trousers and said roguishly, "How about a tankard of sack at the local pub?" "No thanks, not today," said Quillerin. "What's this? A folding book rack?" He had picked up a hinged contraption in brass-bound ebony. "How much do you want for it?" Take it, with the compliments of jolly old St. Nicholas." "No, I'll buy it if it isn't too expensive." "We have been asking 15, but allow us to extend the favor of a clergyman's discount. 8 simoleons." At this point, another customer, who had entered the shop and had been thoroughly ignored, said impatiently, "Got any horse brasses?" Be gone! Be gone! said the dealer, waving the man away. "This gentleman is from the press, and we are being interviewed." "I'm through. I'm leaving," said the newsman. "I'll send a photographer Monday to get a picture of you in your shop." And he paid for the book rack. "I humbly thank you, sir." Nicholas doffed his silk topper and held it over his heart. And that was when Quillerin noticed the small red feather stuck in the hat. It was his feather. There was no doubt about it. It had a perforation near the quill. In a playful moment 2 weeks before, he had plucked it from his hatband to tickle Coco's nose, but the cat's jaws were faster than the man's hand, and Coco had punctured the feather with the snap of a fang. Quillerin walked slowly from the shop. He stood at the top of the stone steps, wondering how that feather had made its way to Ben's topper. As he stood there, frowning, Quillerin was suddenly struck down. All creation descended on him, and he fell to his knees on the stone stoop. There was a rush and a roar and a crash, and he was down on hands and knees in snow and ice. In a matter of seconds, Ben Nicholas came rushing to his aid. "A bloody avalanche!" he cried, helping the newsman to his feet. "From the roof of this benighted establishment! We shall sue the landlord!" Quillerin brushed the snow from his clothes. "Lucky I was wearing a hat," he said. "Come back and sit down and have a wee drop of brandy." "No, I'm okay. Thanks just the same." He picked up his book rack and started down the stone steps, favoring his left knee. When Quillerin reached his apartment, having ascended the stairs with difficulty, he was greeted by a rampaging Coco, while Yum Yum sat on the bookcase with her shoulder blades up, looking like a frightened grasshopper. Coco raced from the door to the desk, then up on the daybed, and back to the roll-top desk. "So, those monkeys installed my phone," Quillerin said. "I hope you bit the phone company's representative on the ankle." Coco watched with interest and wig-wagging ears while Quillerin dialed the Fluxion Photo Lab and requisitioned a photographer for Monday morning. Then the cat led the way into the kitchen with exalted tail and starched gait to supervise the preparation of his dinner. With his whiskers curved down in anticipation, he sat on the drain board and watched the chopping of chicken livers, the slow cooking in butter, the addition of cream, and the dash of curry powder. "Coco, I've joined the club," the man told him. "The landlady has a wrenched back, Russ Patch has a broken leg, the redhead's in a cast, and now I've got a busted knee. I won't be cutting any rugs at the press club tonight." "Ew," said Coco in a consoling tone. Quillerin always spent Saturday evenings at the press club, most recently in the company of a young woman who wrote with brown ink. But she was out of the picture now. On a bold chance, he looked up the 3 weird sisters in the phone book and dialed their number. Most women, he was aware, jumped at the chance to dine at the press club. Unfortunately, there was no answer at the antique shop. He then called a girl who worked in the women's department at the Fluxion, one of the society writers. "Wish I could," she said, "but I've got to address Christmas cards tonight if I want them to be delivered before New Year's." "While I have you on the line," he said, "tell me what you know about the Duxbury family." "They do their bit socially, but they avoid publicity." "Why?" "Do they have any daughters?" 5, all named after English queens, all married except one. She came out 10 years ago and what? Went right back in, I guess. You never see her or hear of her." "What's her name?" "Mary. She's the oddball of the family." "Thanks," said Quillerin. he went to the press club alone. The club occupied the only old building in the downtown area that had escaped the wrecking ball. A former county jail, it was built like a medieval fortress with turrets, crenellated battlements, and arrow slots. Whenever the city proposed to condemn it for an expressway or civic mall, a scream of outrage went up from the daily fluxion and the morning rampage, and no elected or appointed official had dared to campaign against the wrath of the United Press. As Quillerin limped up the steps of the dismal old building, he met Lodge Kendall, a police reporter, on his way out. "Come on back, then I'll buy you a drink," Quillerin said. "Can't, Quill. Promised my wife we'd shop for a Christmas tree tonight. If you don't pick one out early, you're out of luck. I hate a lopsided tree." "Just one question, then. What section of town has the highest crime rate?" "It's a toss-up between the Strip and Sunshine Gardens. Skyline Park is getting to be a problem, too." "How about Zwinger Street?" "I don't hear much about Zwinger Street." "I've taken an apartment there." "You must be out of your mind. That's a slum." "Actually, it's not a bad place to live." "Well, don't unpack all your gear, because the city's going to tear it down," Kendall said cheerfully as he departed. Quillerin filled a dinner plate at the buffet and carried it to the bar, which was surprisingly vacant. "Where is everybody?" he asked Bruno, the bartender. "Christmas shopping. Stores are staying open till 9. "Ever do any junking, Bruno? Are you a collector?" the newsman asked. The bartender was known for his wide range of interests. "Oh, sure. I collect swizzle sticks from bars all over the country. I've got about 10,000. "That's not what I mean. I'm talking about antiques. I just bought part of an iron gate from a castle in Scotland. It's probably been around for 3 centuries. Bruno shook his head. "That's what I don't like about antiques. Everything's so old." Quillerin finished eating and was glad to go home to Junktown, where there were more vital interests than lopsided Christmas trees and swizzle sticks. No one at the press club had even noticed he was limping. On the steps of the Cobb mansion, he looked up at the mansard roof punctured by attic windows. Its slope still held its load of snow. So did the roof of Mary's house. Only Ben's building, though of identical style, had produced an avalanche. In his apartment, Quillerin found the cats presiding on their gilded thrones with a nice understanding of protocol. Yum Yum, as always, on Coco's left. The man cut up the slice of ham he had brought them from the press club buffet, then went to the typewriter and worked on the Junktown series. After a while, Coco jumped on the tavern table and watched the new mechanical contraption in operation. The type flying up to hit the paper, the carriage jerking across the machine. And when Quillerin stopped to allow a thought to gel, Coco rubbed his jaw against a certain button and reset the margin. There were 2 other distractions that evening. There was an occasional thumping and scraping overhead, and there were tantalizing smells drifting across the hall. First, anise, then a rich, buttery aroma, then chocolate. Eventually, he heard his name called outside his door, and he found the landlady standing there, holding a large brass tray. "I heard you typing and thought you might like a snack," she said. "I've been doing my Christmas baking." On her tray were chocolate brownies, a china coffee service, and 2 cups. Quillerin was irked by the interruption, but mesmerized by the sight of the frosted chocolate squares topped with walnut halves, and before he could reply, Mrs. Cobb had bustled into the room. "I've spent the whole evening over a hot stove," she announced. "All the dealers are upstairs making plans for the Christmas block party. Cece has the 3rd floor fixed up kind of cute for meetings. He calls it hernia heaven. You know, antique dealers are Oh my, you're limping. What happened? Bumped my knee. You must be careful. Knees are pesky things, she warned him. You sit in the Morris chair and put your leg up on the ottoman, and I'll put the goodies on the tea table between us. She plopped her plumpness into the rocking chair made of bent twigs, unaware that Coco was watching critically from the mantel shelf. For someone who had spent several hours slaving in the kitchen, Iris Cobb was rather festively attired. Her hair was carefully coiffed. She wore a bright pink dress, embroidered with a few sad glass beads, and her two dangling pairs of eyeglasses, one of which was studded with rhinestones. Quillerin bit into a rich, dark chocolate square, soft and still warm from the oven and filled with walnut meats, while Mrs. Cobb rocked industriously in the twiggy rocking chair. I wanted to talk to you about something, she said. What I said about Andy's horoscope, I really wasn't serious. I mean, I never actually thought there was anything in it. I wouldn't want to stir up any trouble. What kind of trouble? Well, I just heard that you're a crime reporter, and I thought you might be here to... That's ancient history, Quillerin assured her. Who told you? The dragon. I went over to borrow some beeswax, and she told me you were a famous crime reporter in New York or somewhere, and I thought you might be here to snoop around. I honestly never thought Andy's fall was anything but a misstep on that ladder, and I was afraid you might get the wrong idea. I see, said Quillerin. Well, don't worry about it. I haven't had an assignment on the crime beat in a dog's age. That's a load off my mind, she said, and she relaxed and began to survey the apartment with a propriety air. Do you care for that papered wall? She asked with a critical squint. It would drive me crazy to lie in bed and look at all those printed pages from books. They're applied with peelable paste, so you can pull them off if you object. To tell the truth, I rather like that wall, Quillerin said, as he helped himself to a second chocolate brownie. It's Don Quixote mixed with Samuel Pepys. Well, everyone to his own taste. Are you going away for Christmas? I'll be glad to look after the cats. No plans. Do you have a Christmas party at your office? At your office? Just a Christmas Eve affair at the press club. You must have a very interesting job. She stopped rocking and looked at him with frank admiration. Coco, Quillerin shouted. Stop tormenting Yum Yum. Then he added to Mrs. Cobb, they're both neutered, but Coco sometimes behaves in a suspicious way. The landlady giggled and poured another cup of coffee for him. If you're going to be alone for Christmas, she said, you must celebrate with us. Cece trims a big tree, and my son comes here from St. Louis. He's sort of an architect. His father, my first husband, was a school teacher. I'm an English major myself, although you'd never guess it. I never read anymore. In this business, you don't have time for anything. We've had this house 4 years, and there's always something. She prattled on, and Quillerin wondered about this fatuous little woman. As a newsman, he was used to being cajoled and piled with food, the latter being one of the fringe benefits of the profession. But he would have preferred a landlady who was a degree less chummy, and he hoped she would leave before the dealers came down from hernia heaven. Her overtures were innocent enough, he was sure. Her exuberance was simply a lack of taste. She was not amply endowed with gray matter, and her attempt to reverse herself about Andy's accident was pathetically transparent. Had she guessed that her husband might be implicated if it proved to be murder? He died of food poisoning, a rare botulism, Mrs. Cobb was saying. Who? Asked Quillerin. My first husband. I knew something tragic was going to happen. I'd seen it in his hand. I used to read poems, just as a hobby, you know. Would you like me to read your poem? I don't have much faith in palmistry, Quillerin said, beginning to edge out of the deep-cushioned Morris chair. Oh, be a sport. Let me read your future. I won't tell you if it's anything really bad. You don't have to move an inch. You sit right where you are, and I'll perch on the ottoman." She plumped her round hips down beside his propped foot and gave his leg a cordial pat, then reached for his hand. "Your right hand, please." She held it in a warm, moist grasp and stroked the palm a few times to straighten the curled and uncooperative fingers. Trapped in the big chair, he wriggled uncomfortably and tried to devise a tactful escape. "A very interesting palm," she said, putting on one pair of glasses. She was stroking his hand and bending her head close to study the lines when the room exploded in a frenzy of snarling and soprano shrieks. Coco had pounced on Yum Yum with a savage growl. Yum Yum shrieked and fought back. They rolled over and over, locked in a double stranglehold. Mrs. Cobb jumped up. "Heavens, they'll kill each other!" Quillerin yelled, smacked his hands at them, struggled to his feet, and whacked the nearest cat's rump. Coco gave a nasty growl, and Yum Yum broke away. Immediately, Coco gave chase. The little female went up over the desk, round the Morris chair, under the tea table, with Coco in pursuit. Round and round the room they went, with Quillerin shouting and Mrs. Cobb squealing. On the fourth lap of the flying circus, Yum Yum ducked under the tea table, and Coco sailed over it. Quillerin made a lucky grab for the coffee pot, but Coco skidded on the tray and sent the cream and sugar flying. "The rug!" the landlady cried. "Get a towel, quick! I'll get a sponge." She ran from the apartment just as the dealers came hurrying down from hernia heaven. "What's the uproar?" they said. "Who's getting murdered?" "Only a family quarrel," Quillerin explained, jerking his head toward the cats. Coco and Yum Yum were sitting quietly in the Morris chair together. She was looking sweet and contented, and Coco was licking her face with affection.